flower. We made it to Salisbury Day.
We did. He was originally in Salisbury. There was a baker and drummer outside his building playing drums. It was really annoying. Decided to take use of it, so he had him arrested. As it turns out, he actually has false papers.
Yeah, I know, it's about October. And like anyone that sort of follows through sort of thing, hence where the paranormal part sort of starts off. And obviously it is a museum, so you can go there during the daytime. Yeah. This is shame. But not flapping their wings and circling through it. Supposedly supposed to be. And in a at home, birds flying around the fire. You ask the workman, then, oh, what's with the birds? And they said, do you not know the story? So they explained the story to her. On hearing that, she ran home and later that day. Also, we have Lord Staunton. He was part of a group murder that happened over in Kilmington, Devon. He was convicted and hung. Is in the tomb of the cathedral. They had his noose hanging from the coffin for 200 years, and over the time he was dead. It was a very nice bit, basically. It's a mystery noose, and it's now reported that occasionally it's actually seen as a silk noose hanging above where he lay down next. So that the last case of that, I believe, was only something like 30 years ago, and it's usually people of authority that have seen these sort of things. Obviously, being inside the people, not everybody gets to go and view sort of things. Okay. Because he was actually a lord, so he was sort of pardoned, but he was allowed to rest, which I find is a bit sort of a bit of a funny one. It was himself and his son, I believe, that actually killed two. They were two farm men, basically. It was all over money, and basically they had them out in the church. Basically said, we're not handing you back until we've received the amount of money that you owe us. A fight ensued. They ended up dying, hence they were hung. All right.
I know. I put them in. smell moisturiser.
Can you? This one's very heavily moisturised.
Yeah. Hey? You tripping over fresh air there?
I am tripping over fresh air, yeah, always.
That's been proven to be a skill.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Tripping over fresh air is a skill, is it?
Yeah. And tripping up the stairs.
That has got to be a skill in itself.
Yeah.
Tripping
Inhaling
upstairs.
flies, all of that sort of thing.
Inhaling it. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's my car.
You want me to take a picture?
No, please don't. Hold up, car. Are we going down here, are we? I'm going to go around here a minute and try not to knock myself out. Interesting. I'm not entirely sure what that meant. I will have to look this up in the manual. Why did it go off like that?
I'll explore the greenery around the windows like that.
Nay, let's face it, we probably have drunk in most of them.
I know, I try.
Behind the bars. It's your biggest mistake. Have you got an album? Yeah, we've got an album. Excellent. How long have you been married? 100 years.
It's just good.
Okay, right, just behind me we have what was formerly known as the King's House. Richard III used to reside here with the help of Henry. Mind blank. It'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, Henry, who's good friends with what was Richard before he became king. He helped him become king, King Richard III, and shortly after, he wasn't obviously happy with this, so he wanted Henry's head on the platter. So the following day, his soldiers went out, found Henry, and just outside where the old Debenhams building used to be, which is the Blue Boar, I believe, he was beheaded just out there on the green, and his head was brought back to Richard III on a platter. With the excitement of being able to find him and doing everything else. As they took the head of Henry up to the king, his head rolled off the platter. Blood landed on the floorboards. And because of all the excitement, they didn't get a chance to clean up the blood straight away. A little later on that day, they tried clearing up the blood. Blood couldn't be removed, so stained the floor quite well. Over the years, it's been turned into a school, a hospital, and it's also had extensions that have been able to put on. And where they couldn't get the stains off the floor, they thought they'd turn the floorboards. The floorboards that were in the room that the head fell are now on the staircase, I believe, back end of the building, and the bloodstains are now on the upside, and they still can't be used to this day. Also, it's believed that Henry is one that wonders what used to be the Debenhams. It used to be the sports wear department, so the Salisbury sports wear department as well as in the airport. And you sort of appear and visit people and then disappear. Also, there is supposedly a grey lady that can be seen. There's quite a few grey ladies, whether they are the same one, is unsure. But she is supposedly seen wandering, looking for someone or something in the area, as well as also a grey lady that is known to be crying, looking for someone. With the haunch of venison, which is over that direction, I believe the pub is still going now. Does anybody know it's haunch of venison? Have you heard about the hand? Right. Okay. Fingers crossed I've got the story right. Supposedly a whist player in the 1883? Maybe? Around about then. A travelling whist player. He was playing a game of cards in the pub. and there was a butcher in this game. He believed he was cheating, and hence he was winning a lot of money. So he chopped his hand off and threw it in his fireplace, and which revealed the load card. Obviously, he started, and years later, the hand was actually found still intact in the fireplace. And until 2004, that hand was on display, still in the pub in the fireplace. But someone pinched it in March 2004. So now there is a fake hand. Not very handy. Sorry.
Someone pinched it.
Yeah, so someone's got a hand basically perfectly still intact from.
It's very grim or macabre, and a macabre birthday present for someone. It's very grim.
I don't want it again.
Are you sure?
Very sure.
I mean, I've been fermenting it and everything.
It's chocolate's going to be fine, right?
We're going to head on back to the Bibles. I'll hand you over to Alice and we'll give you a little history.
No, that's not.
And
No.
then we'll do a little bit of mini ghost hunt. A little taster.
It's got legs.
Yeah?
Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's like a piano now.
I'll tell you in a minute. It's weird. Yeah.
Sorry, what's that?
So, yeah, I've been here for 25 years. Oh, right. It's a great deal. Any questions? Because I was told to go on for 5 minutes. So
Yeah, no, you can keep going. You can keep going.
I can go on.
I just know what you like.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I could. I've been going into quite detail, but I'm not going to, because if you come back again, you get spoiled and you get expectations of what's going to happen.
How old is this building? When was it?
About 54. So it was actually, there was a building here before the cathedral. Only a small one, but because the legend is, you had Old Sarum up at the top, where the cathedral is. Didn't get on well with the palace, so the bishop said, we're going to move somewhere. And they got an archer to fire an arrow which hit the deer, which then died here. Now, this was already church land. Yeah, that's the only way they would have built on it. The two most powerful people or landowners in the country are the church and the Queen. Still is, or the state, so, and it still is. So they already had this, so they decided down here, because it's where all the rivers meet, they would have the cathedral. This was already a small little building. They decided, because of where it was, that it would house the bishops of Gallia. So in, I think it was about the 1300s, it was first started being labelled as the wardrobe. He then gave it up, the bishop then gave it up to a family called the Coles, who then said, it's a bit small, isn't it? Can we build it? And they said, yeah, you can build it, you can build it, yeah, do whatever. So then you got the building as it is today. So this would have been a big medieval hall all the way through. The kitchens were down that end of the building, not this end. Sleeping quarters were above it, with accessed by an outside ladder. So, and then the restoration of the monarchy, whenever there was that 1600s, they decided to put in the staircase, change the windows around, put the wood floor in, put the chimney in, and you then got the setup as it is today, because they also moved the kitchen over to that side and changed bits and pieces. So yes, we then had one family here who lived in the same house, in this house, from Napoleon time right up through to the Second World War, and it was the Hussies who lived here, Margaret Hussey being the last one. Spinster died here January the 1st, 1939. So there we go. That's the brief history of the building. Any others?
Yeah, what's through that door?
What's through that door? Offices. Yeah.
Are they
Boring.
haunted?
Huh?
Are they haunted? No. Old places.
Have I had? Yes. Yeah, because in the far corner, I don't know if you can see it through the window. Has it got window? No, the window pokes that way. Right, there is a store cupboard in the far corner with a door. We've put the door on recently. We keep the chairs in here if we need extra chairs in there. The very first ghost hunt we had someone from The Guardian, I think was, present, doing his write-up. And he said, is there anything that can be unexplained? And we just looked at him and said, what do you mean? He said, well, have you heard anything? And we went, no. Apart from Margaret Hussey, that's all yeah. And then we could hear a distinct dunk, dunk, dunk. And it went on for 90 seconds. And we thought, what the hell is that? And it's coming from in there. So we went down there, couldn't work it out. And in the end, we went into the cupboard and we've got a mirror. Don't ask me why we've got the mirror in the chair cupboard. It's been there for donkey's years. And the only way we could replicate that sound was moving it by about a couple of inches out and just releasing it and hitting the wall. And that was the only way we could replicate it. How it happened? Haven't got a clue. Was it that? Haven't got a clue. But that was the only sound which sounded exactly like what we were hearing up here. You know it. Think what you will. But then again, I've also poo-harded it, because I've had a couple of mates up here, and they were sitting in that sofa, and in the white light with that window, that door open, it looks as if there's a lady with a big hat standing on the stairs. And he was like, oh yeah, I've seen a ghost, look at this. And I just looked at him and said, yeah, all right then. Walked up and said, this ghost here? Yeah, you got it right. Yeah, I said, that's the plasterwork and the paper and everything else on the stairs. So I said, that ain't nothing. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, no, it's a fantastic place, really is.
Who owns it now?
The church still
Oh,
does.
still.
We've got a 99-year maintenance lease, which so we pay a peppercorn rent of about, I think it is £200 a year for it. But then when you consider that we've got to get the specialists in to do any work in here, the price of the maintenance skyrockets. It really does. And it's like what you think is plaster on the stairs, it's not plaster. It's Reco-Chaquet work, 1600s, and it's paper mache. Now, we've got plaster going behind that, which is separating from the wall because of the timbers in the wall. And so we, last time we had that decorated, which was about 5 years ago, we had to get someone in, a specialist in, who took silicone moulds of all that work. So if and when the plaster goes, we can replace it with plaster and not paper mache, because there is no one in the UK which does paper mache moulding anymore. No one. An English heritage. Might let you put, get a couple of school kids in, fill the moulds up with they won't let you do that. Well, it's probably look fantastic when they've done it, because they've got the moulds, but they're not allowing it. So, yeah.
What's the story of the black dog?
We don't know. We presume it must have been someone's beloved pet who, whether it had an accident and died young, we don't know. We've tried looking through the records. We haven't found anything about the black dog. The cavalier we know about, because he was wounded at one of the battles. I think it was Worthy Down, which ain't very far away from here. Got brought here, or rather got brought down to the house further down to recuperate, and then he recuperated here, but he died of his injuries. So yes, we know that much about him. We know Margaret Hussey, we know how she died. It was a natural death of old age. So yeah, then you've got Lucy in the what was the old archive room. She hasn't passed over because she watched her little baby getting taken down to the river, put on a boat and taken away because she was having it, or one of the main, because when the court used to come into Salisbury, the king used to stay down, and his court used to stay, or the High Court used to stay at the King's House, which is the other museum. This was where the lower court stayed. They had a bit of a fling. She got pregnant, and because it was High Court, the baby got taken away. So she is still looking out the window, as it were. So yeah, we get that sometimes as well. So yeah, so we have a few number of ghosts. Yes. Oh, quite.
What if something happened?
So, yeah. This bit you're in at the moment is the 1300s, so this would have been a medieval hall. Fire pit down in the centre, just with the smoke going up through the rafters and going out through the tiles on the roof. You would have seen the open roof as well. It would have been no doubt just the tiles on the top, so you would have seen the rafters and all the stays and everything else. The sleeping quarters were over on that side, accessed by a outside ladder, and the kitchens were actually underneath them, with the heat from the fires underneath from the kitchen actually keeping the sleeping quarters warm. Then the restoration of the monarchy around about 1660, restoration of the monarchy, something like that. They put in the staircase, put the floors in, the fireplace, changed the windows around, etc., etc. Moved the kitchen over to that side, and then you've got the basic setup of this building, which has not changed since then. One family has lived in here from Napoleon times through to the Second World War, and that was the Hussies. That's all I'm going to say on that. You see, and then it was a billet for during the Second World War for the ATS, so the ATS has a connection here, and that was it. Then it became a teacher training college up till about 1969. We took it over, and it hadn't been well looked after, so we took it over in the late 1970s. It was derelict, it was falling down. We had a lot of work done to it, one being this room. So if you can see just above me, roughly around about there, there would have been a corridor going down here. There's another wall going down about here, because you had this big fireplace. Here was the laundry cupboard. And so you had the two small rooms, this one being slightly smaller because of the laundry cupboard. And then we took it all out, and then a couple of days later they discovered that this was falling in, and so they had to put the two wooden pillars in pretty sharpish to stop the window from collapsing. So, yes. Right, I'm going to take you up the stairs now into the attics, and then we will work our way down into that. I told you about. It can be quite an interesting room. Just remember the floor is uneven. Your fire exits are either down through that way or through that one.
I thought that was a fire exit.
I'm not going to say too much what goes in this room because, well, it happens.
Oh, the bells! The bells!
There are things in here which I cannot explain, okay? So I'll get that out. So I've had chairs being knocked out from underneath people, I've had dark shadows, I've had flickering lights, I've had books thrown off the cases. Don't go into Most Haunted, is it, with you, Yvette Fielding?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't believe any of that. That's a load of crap. And the way that she's all fake. But that's only because of personal experience I've had in this room with that. So we won't go into there. And yeah, quite good. The latest one was a pile of smoke, a pillar of smoke over there. About 2 weeks ago when we were in a meeting. And we were busy discussing what we were going to do for next year, which is going to be camp followers of the British Army in the Napoleon period. So it's quite rough and quite harsh, and we were discussing it, and we had a volunteer come in and he said, "Oh, what's all that with the smoke?" And there was a pillar of smoke there, and as we turned around it all disappeared. Don't know, haven't worked it out yet, but I'm sure there's an explanation to it. So there we go. The only flashing lights you'll get in here is from the hydrograph and the sensors. That's telling me that the battery needs replacing, and it's on a 31-day cycle. So at some point I will get around to changing the battery. It's been doing it for 2 months as it is, so you know it's in no big rush. So yes, So this is the library.
So if you've had so many personal experiences
Yes.
here, why are you still on the fence?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I can't be asked to get off.
That's one answer.
Oh, have you not? No.
It's not cold here, but all what I just said.
You've not done this one before?
No.
I normally cover London area, so I do around there. Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
I do a lot of.
It's probably all his swords. It's probably all his ceremonial ones. Oops, sorry. I was too busy filming in the kitchen. Why is Camilla here?
Visited in 2020.
Oh, okay. Why is Camilla here? She's only part of the royal family now.
Well, yeah, I have for a while.
How dare she?
Right, anyway, this is, I'll sort of stop here because this is where the main entrance was. And then, because when we took it over, we were a regimental headquarters and an active headquarters. So if you've been standing outside, you'll notice that we've got two letter boxes, which we can now not open because of the Northern Ireland troubles. They were all screwed shut, so you can't get them. And the letter boxes are somewhere behind there now to get them. But this used to be the front entrance. Now, anyway, a couple of years ago now, we decided that we were going to put in plans to have an exhibit hall put on out the back where the patio is with new toilets, etc., etc. And we thought it would be a good idea because we just kicked it out that we would reinstate the front door. And English Heritage come around and looked at it and said, no, you can't do that. And we said, why not? And they said, well, the front door was never there. And it was like, well, yes it was, because we took it out. No, that was never the front door. And we said, but hang on, we've got letters to prove that you approved to let us take the front door out. And I said, no. And I said, we've got the front door in the cellar, the original front door which went there. And I said, no, you can't do it, you've got to keep it. Why? Anyway, this is the gallery. Dark shadows in here, exciting stuff. Right, come down into here. Room 1.
This is when the little people are
You can do it.
Sorry? He's got a torch, she's got a torch, and there's lights.
It's alright, I'm following you now.
Don't shine. It's a better. That's revenge from the other time.
See, this is a folded way you run it, looks like a, what's it, that's on the phone, and that's on the phone, it's interesting, it's a phone.
How much?
For rechargeable.
Sorry?
A little bit.
Well, yeah, proper batteries.
Oh no, these are rechargeable ones now.
I used to have one of those, I used to have wind it up. Right, this is room 1. What I will say in here, where this would have been a breakfast room or small study, where Block's exhibit is 1812. So if any of you are Americans, just to let you know, we kicked you out of Canada there. Okay, done a good job of it as well because you haven't gone back. So that's that. But those would have been French windows. So that's that, quite a nice little room. But what I will say in here, when you are in here, pay attention to what your body feels, okay? So if you feel hot and flustered and rashy on your face, or you suddenly get a real bad ache in your hip or your knees, pay attention, because that's what tends to happen in this room. Okay? Right, into
Okay, but back at the moment, that's from something else.
Yeah. You remember that?
both sides, it doesn't matter.
Okie dokie.
Right, so this is room 2. What
Oh,
we'll
sorry.
say, have a look at how low the ceiling is, and that was because of what was, this was first of all the kitchen, so the ceiling was already put in, so you had low kitchens, and also there's a height difference between the floors of the regimental room and these offices which are above us. So above us we have got the what we now is the project room, the archive room, and the AMOT office right at the very front of the building. So it's quite ornate. These all French doors. I know this one opens because this is your fire exit. Just hammer down on the handle, it will open quite easily. And then you get out into the garden. But these would all have been opened, and they would have had their dinner and dances in here with the string quartet and everything else. So that's what would have happened in here. It is definitely a room of 2 halves. You definitely get First World War stuff on that side, and you definitely get First and lights and everything else. German Eagle's got a story on its own, I'll tell you in a minute, but you might pick up on things like the door locking bolt and spring from one of the Catholic territorial doors which we've got. Now the Eagles picked up and unbolted off one of their trains. I'm not quite sure what sort of train it was, but it could have been from taking the victims, prisoners, whatever you like to call them. I'd say victims, to Bouncing or whatever. And when he got it home, he had a little one up, one down house. Basically the front door opened up onto the hallway with the stairs going up, and he had that on the wall. So the first thing you saw above his head was that, and you opened the door to say hello to it. But yeah, his children thought it was hilarious because they brought it in when he died and thought it was hilarious. So you've got various sticks carved in Bouncing as well. So yes. So this is it. Sorry. Then you've got the modern stuff, Afghanistan, which is here. Then you've got this chap here. This picture was donated by his friend who had the picture painted by a photograph. And this is how good the British Army is, because he tried to, at your age, he suddenly wanted to join up, and he said he let slip that it was to revenge him. And he's not allowed to join any of the British Armed Forces. So he's not allowed to join the Navy, the Army, or the Air Force, or anything connected to them. So, yeah, because you're not allowed to join the Army or the Force to try and revenge someone. You're not allowed. Right, into room 3.
Oh, you're there. I slowed up because I thought you were a bit further back.
Nothing else happens, thank you.
Yeah, so you've got the Fen, which is the big heavy rifle. Yeah, that was the best rifle the British Army ever had. That one has been adapted for small bore target shooting. So you can see the insert in the barrel. So that's been adapted for target shooting. So there we go. All right, this is room 3. as you can see straight away, this is the tallest ceiling we've got, apart from the regimental wing and the library, but down here it's the tallest ceiling. It's also the most ornate. That is all plaster, basically bought out of a catalogue, a bit like IKEA or Argos. Oh yeah, they used to buy them down. And then you get, any of you local?
Yes.
Yeah, so you've heard of MI Hazard the Builders?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have come in and done that. I'm just saying, yeah, it was a local building company. So yeah, MI
They did a
Hazard.
good job.
He did a good job, yeah. But you would, they would have these catalogues sent down from London or places like that. They would flick through them and say, oh yeah, we like that. And then they would order it, and then it would come down on the train, and then they would ring up the builder, and the builder would come in, oh yes, we can put that up. And that's how they done it. So yeah, very ornate, very nice. Now people look at that and say, oh, you've got the eagle and you've got the snake, it must be medical. Nah, come out of the catalogue. Yeah, 1878, you know, Sears catalogue or IKEA's catalogue or whatever. So yes, but joke aside, this room is very good for meeting and greeting. This is where the lady of the house would have been. And so, you know, if someone came in with the calling card, this is where they would have been brought in on the silver platter by the maid or the butler. So get the round table in here, get some glass, see what happens and see who comes and call it. Because it does happen in this room. So there we go. And also, if your fire alarm goes, depending on where the fire is, you go that way and out the garden, or you go that way and out that way or that way. We'll go into the bedroom now. Right, what are we?
Okay. Yeah, no, just noticed something strange, odd then. Anyone else? Cool. No, it's just picked you up and take a look.
What, Rick's turned off again?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Oh, we're very
Right, so as you... Hang on. See, there you go. So the sword I have, the silver sword, comes from Catford Reginald Hayward VC. So he's got the MC, he's got the VC, MC twice, because it's got a bar, 1914 Star, the War Medal, the Victory Medal, the World War II Defence Medal, blah blah blah, and then 2 Coronation Medals and Territorial Long Service Good Conduct Medal as well. So yes. Now House is this chap up here. He got it. He left the army because he was badly wounded in the head, but shortly he joined the reserves. And then he was then wounded in the head, so he'd already got his BC at this point. And he was at Dover, and basically it was he was in his barracks room. Everybody was watching the parade. He turned around, sat on his bed with his rifle, and shot himself up through his head, killed himself. Now, because because of what it was, the army said it was an accident. So he actually had a full-blown military on a funeral, and then he was planted or buried. Tell on the garden, I can't really plant anything. He was buried in an unmarked grave until recently, when the regiment paid for him to have a VC headstone rather. So yeah, so there we go. And then when you saw, you can see Roger's VC. That's how he knocked out 3 or 4. Well, I think it was 2 machine gun posts. Come onto the 3rd, and he was killed on the 3rd one. So he got his VC. That was down in Answer. And you've got to think, what makes him, or made him, get up and literally store 1, 2, 3 machine gun nests, heavily armed machine gun nests, and think he's going to survive it? I don't know. It's just mind-boggling. Really is mind-boggling. Sorry. Anyway, so this is the old kitchen. So it's down the middle room. Please do not tap any of the glasses if you're trying to get a response, because all these are alarmed. They are a silent alarm, and the first thing I will hear is not a telephone call, it will be the police knocking on the door saying, we have got a silent alarm, what is happening? And then I'll get a telephone call from the alarm company saying, your alarm's just gone off, we have arrested the police and they're on their way. Yeah, thanks. So, yes. So please don't do that. So this is the old kitchen where the VCs are, is the old range. You would have had a workstation or table in the middle. Your pantry well is, the well is underneath the wall between the disabled room and the gents room. That's where the well is. The pantry is elsewhere. There was also a brewing house here as well, so that's all out the back. You've got a window there, and then you've got a window there. Now, please ask me how I know there's a window there. Just the ones who don't like. As I say, I've been here for a long time. When I first come here, that back wall was cement rendered. Okay? And I was working here late. It was a summer's day. I was working here late. I was doing some research, or getting research out, ready for someone to come down from London to look at it. And so I'm here about 8:30, 8:45, and who lives in an old house? Really old house?
Old people.
No. Right, so you know the sash windows?
Yes.
And how the distinctive sound?
Yeah.
Well, I lived in an old house, I know what they sound like. So I'm up there, and I can hear a sash window being opened. So I thought, that's a bit weird. Okay. Noted that. Where did that come from? And I thought, well, unless it was from the boarding house next door, because they got sash windows, I've got the window open, so might have heard it, fair enough. And then I hear whoof, bang, and I can feel the bang go upstairs. I thought, okay then, so I come down, looked around, fine. Window. That wall. Make a note of it. About 4 years later, they decided that they're going to have line rendering, the cement taken off and proper line rendering into that building brick, etc., etc. So I've got a builder there smashing his way through the concrete, and I'll go up there and say, there's a window behind there. He just looked at me and said, no then. I said, yeah, it is. He said, no then. I said, yeah, it is. He said, look, it's solid. And I said, no, there's a bricked up window behind there. You are going to find the framework, wooden framework. He said, no. I said, okay. I'm confident I'm going to put the £5 note on it. And he says, I'm confident, looking various bits, I'm going to put a £10 bet on it there. So I said, fine, £10 it is. Shook on it. 20 minutes later I hear, oh shit. He feels the stone all the way down. Thank you very much. And then he says, how did you know that there was a bricked up window in there? So I said, I heard it open one day. And he just laughed. So there you go. But how and why I heard it, I ain't got a clue. But I'm sure there's a time warp situation which I was in and I heard it open and close down below when I was up there. That's what I'm going to keep to. So, yes.
Have you had anything happen out by the toilets?
What, out there? Yeah, lights go on, humming.
Okay.
Why?
Because when I visited, I didn't feel very easy to use those toilets, I'm not going to lie.
No. Yeah, especially there. Yeah, because you also get the. You sometimes get stable around.
This could be messy.
Comes in here, so you will pick up on David's things in here. So it's best to keep that door closed, because what you will get, as you can see, it's all dark. The lights will go on when you close it, because it's all on sensors, and then it will all go off, and then all of a sudden the sensors will just go on. Both doors are locked. The two fire exit doors are locked, so if you are in here, the alarm goes off, out through there, take your choice which way to go. Dead handles, so just pull it, down and you're out. But why do the lights go on and off? So in there. And then of course you've got the cellar. Have we got time for the cellar?
Can do it if you want to.
Yeah, go on, let's go down. No, let me go down the cellar. Right, when you go down the cellar,
I think we've got time for the cellar and then we make a move.
Don't do the weave, so we'll definitely go to the bar.
I was going to say, should we really go for a bar? So I'm limping the car home.
Up to you.
Well, I think we just in case we get pulled. We don't want to smell of alcohol, do we?
Yeah.
Don't tell them. Let's see if they can see it. Let's see if they... Then I'll hear a scream.
Yes. I'm not using those toilets. I don't even know.
There is other toilets.
I'm not using those toilets. I don't know what I told you. I told you about those toilets. It's always the toilets.
Well,
Still don't make sense.
have you found him?
You're walking your deck.
Right, Emma, this is the cellar. This is the opposite part of the building.
Just watch your head as you get towards the sort of bottomless of the steps. And careful on the floor because there is
I know you've got a door to it, so I think I might have.
Okie dokie.
Part of the building. You've got a couple of key spaces here, very low ceiling. It was a bit higher until they put the bathroom in. Can be quite interesting down here, flashing lights and that sort of thing. Oh God, how long ago was it? David Chilton's time. I've been here. It must have been about 20 years ago. We had death watch beetle in these beams. So all these beams above here are brand new. Anyway, so we had to empty the office out. So all the office was taken out, and the carpenter come in. He ripped all the floor up, and as you consider, he's now on the beams, and so he's cut all the beams out which he wants to, apart from one. So he then, silly idiot that he is, he's cut one beam nearly halfway through at that end. So he comes down to this end, and he's cutting away at the beam. The whole thing collapses. Now we had, well they still are, you can see where they've been rebuilt. We had Victorian wine racks on one side, and Victorian proper Victorian wine racks on the other, and he smashed all of those up. And so it was like, oops, and the Mouldings, who was in charge of the work, said, I give you whoops, we've now got to put all that together because that is listed work. Thank you very much. So they then had to build all the in covers as well, so they built those as extra. So yes, that was all smashed up. And we thought, what an idiot. Who stands on the beam and cuts their boot? Yeah. So yes, Emma, so that is pretty much the end of the tour, folks. Thank you for flying the AMR round.
Yeah, that's fine. When you finish in the toilet, just come back up to the base room.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, go on. Do you go for the base with us?
Yes.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, the room we were originally in, yeah. Oh, too many stairs. Rich people put too many stairs in. Oh, Jesus.
Well, not literally.
With you, but
It just adds a bit of value to it for you. So it gives you a show of what we actually got up here as well. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
I could get the Zulu spears out. We've got a set of Zulu spears, proper Anglo-Saxon Zulu spears. Yeah. So you've got three sets of spears. I might get them out there.
You might as well get them.
Oh, yeah, let's get.
Just go and get
Yeah,
it.
hang on. I'll get the key.
Thank you.
before we split up, hopefully it started to get dark a bit quicker. And we always do the best, don't we? Yes. Yeah, so guys, help yourself to snacks and biscuits and whatever. Just down these steps, next to the library, is the kitchen. So there's tea, coffee, sugar, milk, squash, help yourselves.
Where's the non-spooky toilet?
There is a toilet, literally just at the bottom of these steps here.
Cool.
It didn't seem that spooky the last time I used it.
That's fine.
You might be right. And there is actually also one, but I don't think you'd like that one, right at the bottom.
Yeah, no, you're right, thanks.
She knows about
So yeah, you'll be alright in that one. But there is only one toilet there.
That's fine.
But, or someone will go with you for the toilet there as well. Yeah, so obviously if you want a cigarette guys, then obviously
Just make sure
outside.
you're back in.
Right.
Half past back here.
Yes, I know. Are we taking the spooky toilet? Are we doing the spooky toilet?
I guess so, yeah.
We are doing the spooky toilet, are we? Okay.
Spooky toilet, yeah.
Yeah.
Let that lady use this one.
There. Oh, you go for the spooky.
We're going to the spooky one.
There is one there.
Oh, I thought that other lady's going to go in there. But I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll use the spooky one. It's fine.
I'll go in this one, shall I?
You're going in that one. All right. I'll go on my own to the spooky one then. It's fine. If I can remember where it is. That way. Ladies. Spooky toilet with a window open.